So by the time this video comes out, Crimson Desert will have been out for about a week, and it was a highly anticipated game and met with a lot of interesting reception to it from critics, some really loving it, some not really liking it at all, and has created not really a controversy, but a huge conversation around this game for the past week. And I've been playing it a lot. Like, I've been playing this game every night, sometimes during the day, maybe when I should be working, and it's an interesting game. I can't stop playing it, but at the same time, I am highly annoyed by it. So let's dive deep into Crimson Desert, but real quick before we do, if you're new here, hello, I'm Dustin. Welcome to my channel. I'm so happy to have you here. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything, and you'll get notified of my videos when they go live. I'd really appreciate it. We're trying to get to 50K. It's gonna be a while, but we'll get there. So Crimson Desert from Pearl Abyss is a giant open world action game, maybe with some light RPG elements, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a true RPG. And one thing that the developers have been pushing a lot is that this is an open world sandbox, and I can agree to that. When I started playing this game, and from all the pre-release stuff, it's clear that this game had a lot of major inspirations, and the two that stick out to me the most are Red Dead Redemption 2 / Rockstar games in general, and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild specifically. And you can really see that when you play this game, there's like things that they picked and choose from these two games to incorporate into Crimson Desert, along with a lot of the developer, Pearl Abyss, their sensibilities with MMOs from their experience making Black Desert Online. And a pitch for a game that's Red Dead meets Zelda meet Witcher, of course, is really exciting, especially to fans of open world games. And I think it does achieve that goal in some ways. But I mentioned, like, if you're picking and choosing from these two games, there are some elements that I think they did really well, others that I think that they completely missed the mark on. So let's talk about a good thing first, and that is the world itself. This is, as they stated, a sandbox open world game, and the world is massive. In fact, I've only really scratched the surface of all the different areas in this world. I haven't even reached the titular Crimson Desert yet. The thing that stands out to me immediately from the beginning of this game is that the world really does feel alive. The towns have different people in them that you can, of course, talk to and interact with in different ways, get quests from. When you're out in the wild, there is tons of wildlife to either hunt, or you can capture different bugs and things like that. The water in this game looks so good, and the landscape is just completely vast, and you will find yourself being pulled in to explore it. There's a whole system about the different factions in the game and the different houses and the different tasks you can do them in order to upgrade your ranking within them for different rewards. And it's one of the more cool novel ideas in this game. And even in the first area, there's a lot of variety in it as far as like mountains and valleys and rivers and farms and all kinds of interesting places to see. But with that, part of the bad side, which in this video I want to be flopping back and forth between good things and bad things to kind of balance things out, is that the world just really isn't that fun to get around in. Right at the beginning of the game, you get this glide ability. And I think this makes a lot of sense for a massive open world game like this, where you're going to be traveling around a lot, to give the player multiple ways to get around, so that, you know, you can ride a horse, you can walk, or there's this glide ability. And what's weird to me is that this glide ability is very clearly something they pulled from Zelda, and it's just worse in every way. It really bothers me how bad the glide is. First of all, when you're running, you go to do the glide and it just immediately stops your momentum, and it's not good. Then when you're using the glide, it uses up your stamina so quickly that it almost, at least to me, feels like, why would I even use the glide? Because I really can't get very far with it. I'm clearly not the only one that thinks this as well. There's a really popular tweet going around right now about a mod on PC where you can kind of tune it to let you glide more. And I wouldn't be surprised if they eventually patch this. I wouldn't be surprised if they patch this game and make the glide ability more useful, because as it stands right now, it's just feels useless. And I've seen that later in the game, there are all kinds of different ways to get around. There's, a dragon in the end game. There's jetpacks and things like that. And that's all good and great. I'm looking forward to it. But at this point in the game, I've explored around and spent so many hours moving around. And it's sad because the world is so, giant and beautiful to go around in, but it makes it a chore. And I think some of that comes down to some of the quest design, which, before we get into the bad part, here's a good part. The quests themselves, there are a ton of them. And with that quantity of quests, you're taking them from all kinds of different people, whether you're talking to the butcher who needs something, or you're talking to some rich guy who needs you to help clear out his quarry that's been taken over by bandits. And so you really do get maybe not slice of life of this world, but you can kind of see all the different aspects of it. With that said, though, the quality of these quests vary drastically. Sometimes you'll be doing something really cool, like I mentioned earlier, taking out a quarry, ending with a sick boss fight. And other times there's quests where it's like, hey, literally, I need you to go talk to this guy. So it's like, you talk to the first person, get on your horse. Maybe you have a fast travel point, but probably not, because there's not very many of them. And then slowly make your way over there, since that's the best way. There's no way to glide or anything like that, or make the traversal more interesting. Talk to this guy, and maybe you'll have a combat encounter. Maybe you just need to go buy something and then bring it back to the guy, and then go back to your camp. And overall, you're like, man, what am I doing here? I'm not saying every quest needs to be some kind of bombastic rescue mission that involves, killing a bunch of guys and going to some crazy exotic place, but I also just don't really find it fun doing these extremely mundane things. And like I said earlier, maybe it would be better if the traversal around the world was more interesting. I think it also has to do with there being kind of a lack of emergent gameplay. And to compare this game to Zelda, again, which I think is totally fair, because it's clearly inspired a lot by it, is when you're exploring in a game like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, it's really hard to stay on task, because as you're going from point A to point B, you might see something interesting, something crazy might happen to you, or you're like, oh, what's that? I got to go there. And this game just, as in my experience so far, doesn't have that. I'm not saying that there isn't any interesting or weird things to find, but for the most part, you're going from point A to point B. At best, in my experience, I've found like a little cove of enemies or bandits, whatever, to go and take out, but really just because I was bored and wanted to kill something and thought it would be fun. But there really hasn't been like, oh, what's going on over there? There's some kind of situation here. What's on top of that mountain? What's it's mostly just walking around. But I don't want to sound too negative, because like I said, some of the good quests are really good, and I think it's really cool that some of these quests, when you go do them, they have an impact on the world itself. I mentioned earlier the quarry mission where I had to go save this rich guy's quarry, and it was interesting because I needed to get stone for my camp, and I couldn't do that because the quarry had been taken over by bandits. And so I was like, there must be some kind of quest line here. And lo and behold, there was, for me to go take them out. And then once I did that, now I have a new option in order to get supplies to my camp. So another good thing about Crimson Desert is the combat in this game is awesome. You're doing a lot of your basic, sword slashing, like a light attack, heavy attack. But as you've probably seen already, this game has all these like crazy wrestling moves in it where you're slamming people to the ground, you're throwing them across. I found it really fun, even if it doesn't necessarily fully take out an enemy. If I'm on like the edge of a cliff, you can do this kick and it punts them off the edge, and it gets really fun and crazy, especially with the destructibility of the environments. There's parts where you'll be fighting and things will be crashing all around you, and the game, in terms of its abilities, continues to add more things to the combat to make it more expressive on how you want to do things. And one of the main complaints that I've seen about Crimson Desert is that the controls are bad. And I gotta be honest, this is one that hasn't really resonated with me. A lot of people have complained that there's like a power move with your sword that you hit R1 and R2 at the same time in order to do. And I can agree that maybe feels a little bit clunky, and that's something I've not seen very much in other games, but I feel like I got used to the controls pretty quickly. There's moves too where you have to press 2 of the face buttons at the same time, and I really didn't have an issue with that. I think the controls get a little more clunky in your more mundane things in terms of like looking down at the ground. You need to pick something up, so you have to use this like focus mode by pressing L1 and then move to highlight over it. And there's a thing where like your jump button is the same as your select button, and so while you get used to this, at first I found myself where it's like I want to pick something up and then I'm jumping instead, or I'm picking up the wrong thing. And so it can be a little clunky for sure. One thing I need to rant about with this game though, and I've not really seen anyone talk about this, so maybe this is a hot take that you hear first on this video, is the way you walk around in this game. The simple act of movement, and I'm not talking about gliding or anything that I was earlier, is the simple act of moving your main character. It infuriates me a little bit. Now, I mentioned Red Dead Redemption, and this is one of those things that they pulled right from that game, where if you move your left stick, you are walking. Much like Arthur Morgan in Red Dead Redemption 2. It's almost exactly the same, even that when you move the stick, you start walking. You want to start running, you tap the X, or if you're on Xbox or PC, the A button, and then you start not full sprinting like using your stamina, but you start moving a little bit quicker. Then if you want to run, you double tap it. And it's not like GTA where you have to like tap to run. You double tap it and then you start using your sprint. So there's 3 levels of speed in your walk. And I've seen the arguments like, well, you thought Red Dead was fine, so why are the controls bad here? And I feel like it's just a matter of what you're doing in the game, where it's like, man, I am so tired of Cliff slowing. That's the main character's name. I'm so tired of him slowing to a walk where it's like I'm trying to climb something. I climb up the side and then I'm walking again, or I drop a few feet and now I'm walking again. I constantly have to press that button. And so there's just so much friction in the way you move around in this game. And maybe this doesn't bother people at all, where it's just like, yeah, if I want to move quickly, I tap the button, no problem, double tap. That's fine. I don't even have a problem with the double tap and using to do the fast sprint, right? It's just that constantly Cliff is just stuck walking. And it's like, dude, in a game like this where I'm exploring and I'm climbing things and sometimes the terrain is difficult, it's just this layer of friction that I wish I could get rid of. To me, the solution of what I would want to see in this is that if you move the stick a little bit, then your main character moves slowly. And then if you move it all the way, he moves quickly. If you want to run, then keep the system that's in there with the double tap. That's totally fine. Of all the things to copy in Red Dead, that's the last thing that I would want them to take, is the way the movement works. So I don't know. Maybe this doesn't bother anyone else, but as I'm playing, it's constantly the thing in my face. I'm like, why? So one of the things going around in this game when the reviews came out was from Jake Baldino with this tweet here saying that the game takes about 8 hours to get into. And I completely agree with this take. My first, maybe not quite 8 for me, but the first few hours for sure, this game are incredibly boring. I made a tweet about it and got a lot of heat for this, about saying it was pretty boring in the beginning. And you can tell that the beginning of this game has some of the remnants of when this game was possibly an MMO, where it's showing you how the different mechanics work and the things you can do in this game, but it's doing it at such a snail's pace. And again, like some of the other quests, even later on, that are just so mundane, where it's like, you need to go clean out this person's chimney. We need you to take this thing to this person. And it's compounded by the fact that at the beginning of the game, you have, not very many abilities. You're very low on stamina. So doing these things, again, it just comes to that friction where it's like, man, what are we even doing here? And it's not even that I have a problem with a slow beginning. I think a game with this many systems and things in it, of course, it's going to be a little slow at the beginning, but if you're going to have it be slow, I would hope to be doing a little bit more interesting things than what's here. So let's end on a positive note, because I said that I can't stop playing this game despite all the things that are annoying with it. And once you hit this groove where you fully understand what the game wants from you, what you can do in the game, what feels good, what doesn't feel good, you start to really get into a flow of this game. And it really opens up to let you kind of focus on the things you want to focus on. If you want to do the main quest, you can do that. I spent a lot of time just focusing in on that main quest. Now I've been spending a lot more time building up my camp and getting more of my lost crew back. I've been doing some of the quests for some of the different factions in the game. That's been cool too. And also just focusing on building up my main character with the different abilities in the game, which is consistently changing how I play it. And this game does have a lot of moments of awe, or whatever you want to call it, where you're either, if you're up in one of the Zelda sky islands in this game and looking out at the vast landscape, or if you've made it to the top of a mountain, or even in some of the smaller places where you're in like a cathedral that looks beautiful and you're like, wow, this is so cool. And seeing all the characters inside, it feels all very realistic and lived in, and like you are in this giant sandbox open world. And so for me, with just playing 15 to 20 hours of this game and just scratching the surface of it, it keeps me going, be like, man, what else is out there in this world? So if you are a fan of sandbox open worlds, then I mean, this is absolutely a game you should check out. And you probably already are playing it. If you're in it for story, this has been another big thing for people, that the story is kind of boring. And I think I agree with that. Honestly, I don't even really care about it, which, to each their own. If you really care about story, then I get it. I do care about story in games a lot. I guess it just depends on the game, and I know what I want from each game on a per game basis. And this is one where it's just like, yeah, it's about the world. One thing to shout out, I think also, is that this game has already drastically changed in the first week of playing it. Just a few days after launch, they incorporated a massive patch in terms of all the things that it changes. There was a thing where the jump initially was really weird, and they fixed that, and they've gone and already retuned a lot of the different things about this game. So it's possible, even by the time I'm recording this video and I'm going to release it tomorrow, it's possible there could be another patch that changes some of the complaints that I've already had. And I think that's really awesome that they are listening to feedback and quickly incorporating that into the game. So now we're kind of at the end of the video, and I guess for the diehards that are listening to the whole thing, thank you. Just wanted to follow up about the performance and the fact of them hiding the base console version of the game. And in hindsight now, looking at everything, it's very clear why they didn't really want to show off the base PS5 version of the game. It's clearly not a Cyberpunk level disaster, but the performance mode is less than stellar, I would say. And so I've seen some people even get PlayStation to refund them because they thought the game didn't look very good or didn't run good enough or whatever. And so, yeah, it's kind of in the middle of what I expected. I never thought it would be some kind of major disaster, but it was not good either. So pretty annoying. I always am an advocate for developers being upfront about what you're getting. And so it is what it is. I wouldn't recommend this game on base PS5. PS5 Pro looks really excellent, though, for this game. The PSSR 2 is supposed to be excellent. I've been playing on PC, on two PCs, actually. My upstairs PC with a 4090, my downstairs PC, which has a 3080, and both of the experiences has been overall excellent. And that's it for this video. I'm sure I'm going to have so much more to say about Crimson Desert in the weeks and months even to come. So if you want more of that, you can check out Sacred Symbols, the podcast I'm on over at Last Stand, or maybe on Summon Sign, or you can check out my streams here on this channel every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So look forward to that. Be there, and we can talk about really whatever you want. And thanks for watching this video. Of course, if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to get notifications about my videos, and I appreciate you for checking this out. We'll see you guys next time.